Welcome to this lecture on the exercise 8.1 walkthrough. In this exercise, we'll walk through exercise 8.1, and 8.1 is required for 8.5, but 8.1 is not submitted. 8.5 is also not submitted, but we do need it for 8.6, which is a graded assignment, so we need to do both of these. Moreover, we need to have started with 6.10, so if you haven't yet done 6.10, go back and finish that before continuing here. And we'll open the 610 report, rename it and save it as E8.1. We're going to cosmetically change the lines under the details section to a dotted style. We're going to add the grouping on the region. We'll add the report header section, and we will go ahead and change the sorting to sort on the postal code, but also on the country code. So country code will be the major sort key, and the postal code will be the subsort key or the minor sort key. And then we will use the summary dialog box to create a count of the customer ID, which will tell us in each region where the group break is, how many customers are in that region, and then ultimately we'll take that and put that in as a grand total as well. The last thing we'll do in the first part of the video, however, is to open the summary location drop-down list and make the summary location appear under the group 1 option. Welcome to this video, which will show an exercise 8.1 walkthrough. 8.1 is not a submitted exercise, but we need 8.1 in order to do 8.5, which is also not a graded exercise, but which is in turn needed by 8.6, which is a graded exercise. So remember that all of the chapter exercises this term are assigned, and these interdependencies are why you should really be working through them all and not just ignoring them, because you will get caught up and have to do a lot of makeup work in order to move forward when you start hitting one of these dependencies as we see here. In fact, if you haven't already done 6.10, you need to stop the video and go back and finish that, because we need to use 6.10 as a starting point for this exercise. So that said, let's go ahead and open up E610, Modified Customer Information Report. All right, and the first thing let's drop over into the Design tab, and let's grab this line underneath the data fields, and right-click on it, and let's change the format of the line, and let's switch that over to a dotted line. Good, and we can check to see how that looks. Yep, now a dotted line, exactly what we wanted. Drop back to the design view, and now let's add a grouping. So let's open the Insert Group dialog box, go up to Insert, Group, and we're going to group this on the region. So let's group it by customer region, and ascending order is fine. The other defaults are fine. We can say OK. And notice we now have the group header and group footer section. The group header group 1 region has been added. And so our next step is to right-click in the report header section and change it to show short names. Actually, this is already showing short names, but let me show you how to toggle that. So we right-click over in the group header, and let's see here. Excuse me, in the report header, and oh, yeah, okay. All the way over in the blue, and say show long section names. So currently it's showing long section names, and we come over here in the report header section and tell it show short section names. And now we're down to the abbreviated. It gives us more screen real estate. So that's where we already were. But if it was showing the long section names like this, you can right click in the blue and change it over to show short section names. Okay, with our view adjusted, our next step here is to open the record sort expert dialog box. Okay, so this little A to Z widget here, that's our record sort expert. And we want to take a look at the available fields, and let's add a sort in initially by the postal code. Okay, so come over here and add the postal code, and see now we're sorting first by customer region and then by postal code. We can also add other sort criteria. So for example, we could sort by country, but it doesn't make sense to sort by postal code and then by country. We really want to first sort out which country, and then within those countries, each postal code within that. So we can grab that and change the sort order, so now it's logical. So our grouping is by region, and then within region, we're going to sort by country and then subsort by postal code. That makes more sense. Okay, so we've got our sorting worked out there, and let's see, we're doing those both by ascending. So the major sort key and the minor sort key, they don't have to both be ascending. We could make one descending, one ascending. Either way, that's fine because they're both sorted independently. Okay, first by customer country, so we'll get all the USAs and all of the Australias and all of the Great Britons or Englands, and then within them by the postal codes of those respective countries, which would make sense. Okay. All right, so say OK. And now let's go and insert a summary for the report. And the summary, let's add the customer ID as the primary. And let's take a count, how many customers. And then for the summary location, let's change this not to put that summary in the grand total initially. Let's put it in group 1. We'll come back and add a grand total in the report a little bit later. And say OK. And let's take a look and see what the report is doing for us so far. All right, so we now have the grouping by Abu Dhabi, Alsace, Ankara, Aquitaine, and so forth. We have the count of customers in that region summarized at the bottom of each region. We ought to put a label on that at some point so we know what that number is, because it's just kind of floating there. And let's see, let's scroll to the very bottom using the page down key and see what the bottom of the report looks like, because we're going to be changing that. Right now, it's pretty uninspiring. It just sort of ends, peters out. All right, but good progress so far. Let's leave this video here, and then we'll break the other steps down in part 2. In the second part of our video, we'll take care of some aesthetics and some visual formatting on the report. We're going to change the layout of the page header and add a couple of titles, one in 16-point type and one in 14-point type, and we'll align those and center them on the page. We'll add the special field for page numbering that will show us page N of M, and we'll put that in the page header. That would appropriately go either in the footer or the header of the page section. We're going to put it in the page header. And then let's see, we're going to take care of some other aesthetics. So address 1 is not very meaningful to people. We'll change that to simply address, and most people will recognize zip code rather than postal code, so we'll change the label of that field. Since we're grouping by the region, we can go ahead and get rid of the region field. It becomes redundant in the body of the report, and that gives us a little more real estate to make the customer name wider and make a few other layout adjustments. We'll create a summary field in the group footer section that will tell us every time the group breaks. So in other words, every time we're about to enter into a new region, it'll give us a grand total for the previous region of how many customers were in that. And then we'll use a little trick to save us some time. If we simply copy that group total down into the report footer, it automatically becomes a grand total rather than a group total. And we'll set the labels up for that and fix the layout a little bit. And then I think we're there with exercise 8.1. Okay, we're ready to pick up with 8.1 in part 2 video. And in this part of the video, we're going to make some improvements to the way that the report looks and is formatted. We'll also add some summary totals and that kind of stuff. So first thing we need to do is make the page header section a little bit longer. So let's pop into the design view, and here's our page header. Not quite sure how long we're going to need to make it, so let's just add about this much room. And then let's take, and if I click and drag, I can grab all of those field labels that are kind of floating, and we'll drag those back down. And just in case I didn't line those up evenly, we can also right click, and remember they're all selected here, so we can align them to the bottoms, and that gets the bottoms of all those fields lined up nicely. Okay, and so that's a good start. Our next step was we want to create a couple of titles here. And the titles, both these titles are going to span the entire width of the report. So let's go ahead and insert a text object. And we'll just kind of grab that and drag it all the way across edge to edge on the report. And the first title we want to name or we want it to say customer information grouped by region. And let's see, we'd like this to be bold, so let's highlight all that and Control B will make it bold. And then we'd like the font to be maybe 16 point on that part. And let's center that within the text box. And of course, we've made the text box stretch across the entire page, so that will center on the page as well. Nice. And I'll show you a sneaky little trick to get the second one in here. If we highlight that object, Control C, and come down and Control V and copy it, we can drop another copy right beneath it and save ourselves a little time in setting up the font and the centering and all that. The one thing we do want to make different here is the text is going to be different, and let's make this like a subtitle. So we'll make it about 14, and let's see here. Let's say sorted by zip code. And let's see if I get off that object and click back on it. Maybe we can take that and tighten up the size of just a little bit. Yeah. Oh, I moved the whole object. Oh, there we go. A little bit tighter. Let's preview that and see. That's not cut off or anything, so that looks pretty good. Okay. All right. So they're already the title's already centered across the page, and let's see what else. This heading for address 1, yeah, address 1 is the name of the field, but it would be a little nicer if the actual text just said maybe address, and instead of postal code, maybe that's more familiar to people reading our report if we call it the zip code. So I haven't changed the actual field value, just the label that's floating above that. Okay, and let's see, the region, since we're sorting it out by region, and that's going to be, not sorting, excuse me, we're grouping it out by region, and that's going to show in the grouping header. Maybe we don't need this or this at all. So let's go ahead and delete the region field and its label from the report, and that gives us a little bit more screen real estate. So let's go ahead and even things up a little bit. So let's move the address field to the right, and let's see here. We could probably drop that guide, And let's take the address field and slide it on over about that far to the right. And then what else shall we do? Um, let's make the customer name a little bit wider because we've got a little more real estate. We could leave this label shorter. I kind of like to grab them both at the same time and widen them out. Let's maybe bring our guide here to line over with the address. Nice, so we'll use our guides effectively. And, oh, you know what? I think I grabbed the region when I did that instead of grabbing the customer name field. So I'll go back, grab the customer name field, and there, line it up with the length of its heading. And that looks pretty good. Let's take a quick peek. Yeah, okay, that's looking all right. And let's see, what next? Oh, you know what I skipped? Let's go ahead and add a page N of M um, to the field. We could either put that down in our page footer, would be a great place to put it, or we could put it up in the page header. In this case, let's drop it in the page header. So if we go look at our special fields, and let's see, grab our page number N of M, page N of M, drag that over here, and how about we put that above and maybe a little to the right of the zip code, and it doesn't need to be quite that big, so let's see if we can shorten that up a little bit, go maybe to the edge of the page. And you know what else let's do? Let's make sure it always lines up on the M page number, so let's just align that right. So good, that'll be aligned right. Now we have a whole bunch of space here that is kind of dead. So I think I added too much space. I'm going to have a lot of wasted paper, and I don't like that if I'm printing reports. And visually, I don't like it even if I'm not printing reports. So I'm going to go grab those headers again. Oh, missed one. And let's slide those back up the page a bit, maybe to about there. And then go ahead and bring our bottom of our page header there. And let's take a look at that. Oh, that's nice. I like that. And there's our page 1 of 15. And you'll see that since that's in the page heading, we'll see that on each physical page break. Page 2 of 15, 3 of 15, and so forth, all the way down to our last page. And again, the report is still ending kind of unceremoniously, so I want to see some grand totals in the bottom there. We'll need to come back and add those shortly. Okay, back to the design view. And let's just double check. We did the page headers. We got a report title and a subtitle. We centered them, aligned them, sized them. We added our page numbers. Both the titles are centered across the page. We changed the field heading of address 1 to address and the postal code to zip code. We got rid of the region, and we moved the address field right, and we made the customer name a little bit wider. Create a title for the summary field in the group footer section. Okay, so let's see here. This is our summary field here. It's the count of customer. So if you don't recognize it by summary field, that's what it is. Specifically, this is a summary of the count of the customers. And let's slide this over a little bit to the right here. And then let's insert a new text object here. Oops, I got it on the wrong place. I'm going to hit Control Z and undo that. Up. And let's try that again. So let's insert text object. Huh, I got it in the wrong spot again. All right. I'm not going to fight it. I'm just going to drag that down. There we go. And slide our slide our uh, um, detail section break up a little bit, and then let's resize this. Okay. There we go. And bring our group footer back. And in this text item, let us call that, let's see, why don't we call it total number of customers in region. And let's align that to the right. There we go. And now that's maybe a little bit wider than we need it to be. So let's shorten it up. Just a little bit more, maybe right there, and slide our summary field over. And now let's take a quick preview of that. And now we have a label for it. Total number of customers in region, 1, 3, 2, etc. And maybe that's a little bit bigger field than we would ever need, so we could actually shorten that up a little bit. Yeah, okay. That looks nice. All right, so now we've got a total in each group. What we'd also like to have is a total for the whole report. We don't want to turn that into a grand total. And here's a nifty little shortcut for doing that rather than coming in and bringing in a grand total. If we simply take the total field and right-click and copy it and come down here, as a matter of fact, let's make life real easy. Let's grab both those. And I'm doing that by clicking on one, holding the shift key down, and then clicking on the other. So I've shift clicked to get both of them. And if I right click and say copy, and then come down here and say paste. Oh, I didn't get both of them after all. All right, Control C, Control V, paste. And then let's change this. Now that that total, which was a group total when it was in the group footer, now that it's in the report footer, instead of being the total number of customers in the region, this is now automatically turned into a grand total number of customers, and it's not on region, we could say on this report. And let's see, is that wide enough? Nope, we need a little more room. So let's slide this guy over a little bit and make this one a little bit longer. A little bit more. There we go. Now let's preview it. All right, so notice that our group total is still there. And in order to see the grand total, which was in the, which part? Oh yeah, that was a report footer. So that's going to be at the very end of the report. So I'm hitting page down to come to the bottom. And now we've dressed up the bottom of our report a little bit. So after the total of customers in the region, we get into the report footer and we see that the grand total of all the customers in the whole report for all regions is 269. Nifty. Okay, I'll hit page up a number of times and come back up to the top, and we're looking pretty good. And you know what? We're still operating that under report 610. we probably ought to go ahead and say File, Save As before we forget about it. And we wanted to name this, let me go check my notes. We want to name this Exercise 8.1 Customer Info by Region. Great. So now we've got our 8.1 report nearly there. All right, let's see if we had anything else left to do. So we got the report footer section, the grand total number of customers in report, and it said place this title at the 2-inch mark. Move the grand total to the right of this title. So we have some specific formatting instructions. Let's go back to the design. It says it actually wants this at the 2-inch mark. So I'm going to grab both of those and I'm going to slide them over, and looking at the top in the ruler, when it gets to 2 inches, I'm going to let it go. There it is. Okay. And then let's see, I have one last instruction for this report. It says move the fields in the details section to the right so that the customer name field starts at the 1/2-inch mark. Okay. So it said move the fields in the details section. I'm going to match that up with it didn't say anything about the titles, but I think that would be nice. So first I'm going to grab all of the fields, and again I use my little shift click trick. So with nothing selected, I go to the field I want, I hold the shift key down, click it, click the next one, click the next one, click the next one. I get multiple selections, and now if I slide this on over, and it said to the 1/2-inch mark, there it is. Oh, and look at that, because we're working with the fields, the labels moved automatically for us, or automagically if you like that. All right, so let's make sure we've saved that, and let's preview the report. Nice. So we have our report, the headers, the grouping, the page numbering, the subtotals for the grouping. So how many in each? Let's do a sanity check. 1, 2, 3, and this says there are 3. Good. So that's doing what we expected it to do. And if we come on down to the bottom page, we see that this is now moved over to about the, hit my mouse click by mistake, about the 2-inch mark, and grand total of customers on this report, 269, and I think we're there. This concludes the lesson.